Hello everyone, my name's Misty. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Gleespen Designs, where I like to make DIY home decor projects on a budget. So let's get crafting. So one of my favorite places to look for home decor inspiration is Etsy. Now this beautiful burlap garland that lit up definitely caught my eye, but it was $100. So I went into my craft room to see how I could create it on a much smaller budget. I started off by using this 9.5 foot nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and I just cut it down to the size that I needed. For the burlap, I used this roll of burlap from the Dollar Tree again, and then I also had this roll from Big Lots. It was originally $5, but it was on sale for 65% off, which made it only $1.75. You could also use these burlap rolls from the Dollar Tree. They do also have that really pretty white burlap as well. I then just used some sharp scissors to cut out long strips of the burlap, and because of how wide this burlap ribbon was, I was able to get 3 long strips out of it. And with the width of those strips, I tried not to get them exactly the same. I wanted some to be a little bit wider than others. Now I knew I was going to be taking these pieces of burlap and tying them onto the nautical rope, so I made sure to wrap it around the nautical rope just to see how long I wanted it to be, which I'm actually glad that I did that, because I then realized that I wanted the pieces of burlap to be a little bit longer than the first one that I made. So once I figured out a good size, then I just cut up the rest of the pieces of burlap into those strips. Once I was done cutting up a bunch of the pieces of the tan burlap, I did the same exact steps with the white burlap, and again, just making sure I cut some of them a little bit longer, some a little shorter, some a little wider, and some a little skinnier. Now once I had enough pieces cut, all I had to do was start tying them onto the nautical rope, and it is literally as simple as that. All I did was alternate with the colors of the burlap, tying them onto the nautical rope and sliding them down so that they were a little bit squished together, and then just moved on to the next color. When tying on the burlap, you do want to make sure that you leave at least 5 or 6 inches of nautical rope hanging off of either end so that you can make your hangers. How I created my hanger was just taking the nautical rope and turning it into a loop, then taking some jute twine from Dollar Tree, tying it onto the loop to keep it in place, and then wrapping it around quite a few times. I did personally like the look of that, and then I just glued it down and cut off the excess. Now that the hanger is complete, all I'm going to do is just push a few of those burlap pieces down so that it is right up against the hanger, and then I repeat the same steps, creating the second hanger on the other side. You do just want to try your best to make sure that both of the loops are around the same size. I know not everyone is into the whole light up garland thing, so I did want to show you guys how it looks without the lights as well as with the lights. To get my garland to light up, I used these fairy lights off of Amazon. I really like the small battery pack, and they are over 10 feet long. So I just wrapped them around the garland, kind of tucking it into the burlap strands, and I think it is absolutely gorgeous. Williams-Sonoma is very popular, and they have gorgeous high-end home decor. However, this Lazy Susan for $349 really caught my eye, but the price was absolutely insane. However, I am so in love with that whitewashed wood look, so I had to create one of my own. I purchased this wooden Lazy Susan at a local thrift shop for only $1.50, but I did notice the tag on the back said it was from Big Lots and it was originally $12. Now, I do like the design and the saying that's on this Lazy Susan. However, I really wanted that beautiful, simple whitewashed wood look, so I did have to go ahead and start sanding all of that off. The design was just painted on, so it was coming off fairly easy. I could have sanded the entire piece with just a piece of sandpaper, but to speed up the process for video purposes, I did use my sander that I got off of Amazon and will have linked down below in the description box. I noticed that the Lazy Susan from Williams Sonoma had a curved edge to it, and this one did not, so I did just use my sander to curve the edges on this one as well. Now that everything is completely sanded off and I like the curve on the edge, I'm going to start doing the whitewash wood look. If you would like to use a real stain for this step, you absolutely could do so. However, I don't really care for stain that much. The smell, it just takes forever to dry. So I do a faux stain technique, which is just whatever color paint that you would like the stain to be, and you just mix it with a little bit of water. Keep in mind that the more water that you use, the lighter the stain will be. So again, all I did was use some white chalk paint. I don't really think it really matters on what kind of paint you use. I do know I personally use chalk paint for the most part, but all you have to do is mix that with some water and you have a perfect faux stain. I then used a soft bristled paintbrush and painted the entire Lazy Susan with the faux stain. Just keep in mind that you do want to kind of keep your strokes going the same direction. You don't just want to be all over the place. You want it to have a very nice smooth look. Just like I did with the top of the Lazy Susan, I also stained the sides as well, and then once you have everything completely stained, all you have to do is let it dry, and then this DIY is done. I am so happy with how this project turned out. That whitewash looks absolutely amazing. For this next project, I don't have an exact inspiration photo. I just took a bunch of different ideas and created something of my own. I purchased 2 of these bells from Walmart, I do believe, and I do know that they were on sale, so I did not pay the actual price that's on the tag, but I do also know that Dollar Tree carries multiple different types of these bells as well. I started off by just removing the greenery that was on 2 of these bells, and it came off very easily. It was just wrapped around the top of it. And I also used some of these candle holders from Dollar Tree. They are different sizes. I do believe they originally come in black, and I have seen gold before, but the white ones I had painted for a different project, but decided to use them on this one. As you could see, the bells fit absolutely perfect on the top of these candle holders, so all I did was take some hot glue and place it around the rim of the top of the candlestick holder, and I placed the bell right on top. I then repeated the same steps with the second bell and candlestick holder, gluing them together so that I had a set that was 2 different sizes. To give these more of a finished look, I used some spackling. Dollar Tree does carry spackling if you would like to use that, but all I did was take some spackling and put it right into the crease where the bell and the candlestick holder was glued together so that they looked like one cohesive piece. I really feel like adding the spackling makes a world of difference on the final look. And of course, I repeated that step, adding the spackling to the second candlestick holder and bell. Now, originally I did like the look of the paint chipping off, but once I placed it with the rest of my decor, I noticed that it didn't really go very well, so before the final reveal, I did end up painting these completely white. I went online and did a little bit of research because, I mean, it's common sense not to put an actual real candle in plastic. However, you can do it if you have some kind of barrier between the candle and the plastic. I originally wanted to put some of the white Dollar Tree sand, but I did not have any of that and I could not find any at my local Dollar Tree, so I used these river rocks from Dollar Tree, placed a few down inside the bottom as well as around the candle, and I repeated the same things with a second candle holder, and this DIY is done. Like I mentioned before, I did decide to paint these completely white, which was very simple. All I had to do was paint them, and I really do love the way they turned out. One thing that I noticed while shopping online and in stores is textured vases are so in right now. They are very popular and can be quite expensive. But once again, I knew I could create these textured vases on my own with a very small budget. So I picked up this glass piece from the Dollar Tree for $1.25. I found this one at a local thrift shop for only $2, and this one here was actually a blueberry cider jug from a local place called Grandpa's Cheese Barn. And let me just say, if you've not tried blueberry cider, which is a lot like apple cider, but blueberry, you have definitely got to try it. Because this cider jug had the sticker on it, I just used my heat gun. You can also use a hair blow dryer to heat up the sticker, and the adhesive will get nice and warm and the sticker will peel off so much easier. I do recommend before painting on glass that you wipe it down with a rag and some rubbing alcohol. Once I had all my glass pieces nice and clean, it was time to mix up the colors that I wanted to use. I placed out 3 of these little plastic cups from the Dollar Tree and added some white paint into the first one as well as the second cup, and then I did also put some brown colored paint, which is the name I do believe is Java, and I just mixed the Java in with the white paint so that it wasn't so dark. I also didn't want the white paint that I put into the first cup to be such a bright white. I wanted it to be a little bit more of an off-white, so I took some of the brown paint that I had mixed together, placed it in with the white paint, and mixed it up. After I had the first 2 colors mixed up, the third color I wanted to be kind of like a terracotta color, so I used the color Terracotta by Dixie Belle. However, I did take some of the white paint that I had previously mixed together and added it to the terracotta color just so that it wasn't so orange and so bright and more the color that I was going for. You guys could do whatever colors that you would like. This is just the color scheme that I went with. Again, you pick whatever colors that go with your home decor. Now that the paint colors are all mixed together, it's time to add some texture. And I know most of you guys have probably seen this little trick before to add texture to your paint. And all you have to do is add some baking soda into the paint and mix it together. This is going to give you a really nice coverage as well as some really nice texture. I will be using this paint and baking soda trick for the first coat only, and then I have a secret little ingredient that we're going to be putting into the second coat that is going to give it a lot of texture and look absolutely fabulous. As you can see, when applying the paint and baking soda, it gives such a great coverage. That is one of the reasons why I really like adding baking soda to my paint. Even if it's not painting on glass, just adding a little bit of baking soda makes that coverage so much better. I used each one of the colors on a different vase and painted the entire vase. I did make sure to get down into the neck of the vase, the opening up at the top, just a little bit so that it really looked like it was made out of clay or even concrete, depending on the look that you're going for. And as you can see, even on dark surfaces like this really dark vase, it is pretty much black. The coverage is absolutely phenomenal because of that baking soda. For the last vase, I went in with that terracotta and let these completely dry. Now that everything is all dry, it's time to add that secret ingredient for even more texture, and it is sand. Yes, Dollar Tree sand, or really any sand, will be perfect to add a whole lot of texture to your final look. When adding the sand to the paint, you want to add just a little bit at a time, mix it together, and if you need to add more or would like to add more, you can do so. If you add too much, you're going to have to add more paint, and if it's a mixed paint color, then you're going to have to mix all the colors back together. It's just easier to add a little bit of sand at a time until you have the texture that you like. Now all you have to do is, just like with the first coat, you're just going to paint the vases with a second coat. Again, making sure that you have everything completely covered, as well as getting down inside the hole a little bit so that it definitely looks like it's all made out of the same material. And as you can see, putting this textured paint on was very easy, and it was actually quite satisfying. I painted all 3 of these vases with the second coat of paint, let them dry for about 24 hours, and they turned out so amazing, and this DIY is done. I absolutely love beaded garlands. I have so many around my house in so many different types, but one that I do not have is a clay beaded garland. Now, again, the prices online for these are crazy, so I absolutely had to come up with a way to create my own. For my garland, I decided to use plaster of Paris, and I got a large bucket of plaster of Paris off of Amazon for only a little over $8, which is a great deal. Normally the ratios is 1 part water to 2 parts plaster, and all I'm going to do is add 2 half cups equaling 1 cup of very cold water. The warmer the water is, the faster the plaster sets, and we want it to have a nice long working time. Along with the 1 cup of cold water, I also added 1/4 cup of regular school glue. This will make it so that the plaster does not crack and also gives you longer working time as well. Because I want the beads on my garland to be a really nice white color, I added some white paint. I do add a different kind because this was the Dollar Tree white paint and it just did not do the trick. I also mixed it all together using my little mixer here, which actually is a resin mixer, but I use it for many different things, and I will have it linked down below in the description box. Now that the water, paint, and glue is all mixed together, it's time to add the plaster of Paris. And honestly, I still can't believe I got this large bucket for a little over $8. I was able to create so many different things with this, and keep in mind, because I used 2 half cups to create 1 cup of water, I'm going to use 4 half cups to create 2 cups of plaster of Paris. Again, 1 part water to 2 parts plaster. Now that the normal ratios for the plaster of Paris is mixed together, this is where you're going to add 1 extra cup of the plaster of Paris. I added 2 half cups to create that 1 cup, and I also added some white chalk paint to get the color where I wanted it. The reason why you're adding this little bit of extra plaster is so that you can have it in more of a workable clay. Now at first, once you mix it together, it's not going to look like a clay consistency, but if you set it aside for about 2 or 3 minutes, then come back to it, it's definitely going to be a lot thicker and you can work with it a lot better. A little tip that I learned is if you kind of take your hands and cover it with the powdered plaster of Paris, just like you would with flour when working with cooking dough, it's going to make it so that it doesn't stick on your hands as much. Once you have the amount of plaster that you think you're going to need, just start rolling it around so that you remove any air bubbles or cracks. And again, just like with dough, I floured my surface with that powdered plaster of Paris. This next step is super easy. All you have to do is take the amount of plaster that you would like to create your beads and start rolling it in your palms to create that round shape. You could create your beads larger, smaller, different shapes, really any way that you would like. You could even create the white bone look by just flattening the beads between the palms of your hands. Once you have the amount of beads made that you would like for your garland, now it is time to create the hole for you to string the beads on. So all I did to create the hole for my beads is I used a Dollar Tree skewer stick. It is just a barbecue skewer stick, and I stuck it right into the beads to create the hole that I needed. Repeat this step, adding the holes to all of your beads, then you're going to want to let them sit for about an hour or two so that they completely dry. For the string for my garland, I decided to use this jute twine, cotton twine twist mix that I bought from Dollar Tree, and I just basically make it really long and then fold it in half so that it is doubled up. And then a little trick that I figured out to get your beads to go onto the string is by taking a bread twist tie, and where the jute twine is folded in half at that loop, you're going to place the bread twist tie right there, fold it in half, and then you're just going to start pushing the twist tie through the beads so that you can string them onto the garland. I'm not sure if that quite made sense, but I'm so glad there is video here so that you can see exactly what I did, because it really did make putting the beads onto the garland so much easier. Once I had my beads all strung on and my garland was the length that I wanted it to be, I cut off the excess jute twine, and now it is time to make the tassel. How I create my tassels is by holding the twine with my thumb and my finger, and then I just spread my fingers apart and wrap the jute twine around a bunch of times to create the thickness that I would like my tassel to be. Once the jute twine is wrapped around my hand enough, I take my finger, place it through the top loop, and then cut all of the bottom loops so that we have the bottom of our tassel. I keep the loop to the tassel wrapped around my finger, and then I just take the garland, and where I doubled up the twine and just folded it in half, all I'm doing is placing those tassel pieces and just wrapping it around the end. Then I take some more jute twine, wrap that around quite a few times until I like the look of it and you have that actual tassel look. And then all I did was cut off the excess and hot glue it into place. I wanted my tassel to have a little bit more texture and a different look to it, so I took some of those twisted jute twine and cotton twine pieces and I untwisted them. I only did about a fourth of all the strands, not all of them. I did like the fact that there was some still twisted and then there was just white pieces and just the jute twine pieces. I just personally really liked the look of this. Once you have everything untwisted, all I had to do was give it a little bit of a haircut so all the tassel pieces were the same length. And now you have this really cute tassel, and you can start taking your beads and pulling them down so that they meet with the tassel. To create the tassel on the other end, I just took the pieces of jute twine and I tied a knot so that I would have that loop that I could put the tassel strands through. Once again, I wrap the jute twine around my hand a bunch of times, cut one end, and then I take the strands of jute twine, and I did have to loosen up the knot a little bit so that I could fit the strings of jute twine into the loop. And I just placed the strings in that loop, centering them, and then folding them downwards, creating that jute twine tassel. Now I just cut off any excess twine that was for the garland, and I take a piece of the jute twine and start wrapping it around the top of the tassel, just like I did with the previous one. And just like with the previous one, after I had it wrapped around to the amount of times that I personally liked, I hot glued it into place and cut off the excess. Then all I did was untwist a few of those tassel strands, and this beautiful garland was complete. I I truly hope you all enjoyed watching these projects as much as I enjoyed making them. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more DIY inspiration, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. I hope to see you all and a few new friends on the next one. Bye!